What's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, I did a deep dive on the Vikings roster and specifically the 7 UDFAs from this past class that ended up making the team. And this guy right here, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, did it again because he has been one of the best UDFA signing GMs in the NFL over the last couple of years. So we'll talk about it all on today's show. But before we do so, Kwesi's been a polarizing guy as the Vikings general manager. Some people think he is doing a great job. Some people disagree. So I'll ask you guys this. Grade Kwesi Adofo-Mensah as the Vikings GM down below in the comments section. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. If we're talking about everything outside of the draft, probably give this guy an A+. If you include the draft, probably sit around a B+, maybe a B for my grade for Kwesi. But you guys let me know your thoughts down below. All right, let's talk about it. So another year, and the Vikings are loading up with the UDFAs. Now, the Vikings spent a boatload of money on their 2025 roster, so it does make some sense that they're trying to bargain shop a little bit with the UDFA class, but they kept 7 UDFAs, which is a bit of a shocker. So we'll dive into all these guys and tell you about them. We're going to start off with the most famous UDFA for the Minnesota Vikings, Max Brosmer, former quarterback of the University of Minnesota, playing with the Golden Gophers. And why did Brosmer make the team? Because he balled out during the preseason. He showed great stuff on tape. His pocket presence was fantastic. He showed great anticipation, and he put up some pretty solid numbers as well. And also, keep in mind, he had a couple of brutal drops from his receivers, or else these numbers would have looked a whole lot better. But, you'll take 364 yards, 2 tuds, 1 interception, had a passer rating of 91.8. And, when I think about Brosmer, I am just shocked he went undrafted. Like, we saw a lot of quarterbacks go in the 6th and 7th round, where, one, I was stunned those guys were drafted, and the fact that Brosmer wasn't selected in the NFL draft, I have no idea how that possibly could have happened. So I'm shocked he went undrafted, but that's good news for the Vikings because I think he could be the QB2 of the future. I think he's got that type of potential. He should be a guy in the NFL for a very long time. He just has a wicked arm, and, yes, when the play does get off script, you're playing a little more backyard football at the QB position. Is he the best guy in terms of, accomplishing or getting the most out of those plays? Not necessarily, but when it is on time and it is on script and he can just sit in a clean pocket and deliver the football, his processing, his touch is all there. So I'm very excited to see how he's going to develop. So shout out to Brosmer for making the team. But also, another UDFA here, Chaz Chambliss. He was probably the biggest shocker in terms of UDFAs that ended up making the team. Considering we all thought like a guy like Gabe Murphy was going to make it, for example, at the edge position. But Chaz, he offers great value on special teams. And, he played some solid football during the preseason. He popped on a couple of plays. Here are his PFF grades from the 3 games, playing 118 snaps, 62.8 overall, run defense at 68, pass rush 56.5, and coverage 52.2. Now, I fully expect Chaz, he's just going to be a special teams guy. I think it's going to be tough for him to just even get out there on the football field with how loaded the Vikings are at the edge rusher position. Like, we saw last year, like Dallas Turner struggled to get on the field, only playing about 300 snaps. And when you're playing behind a guy like Grenard, Van Ginkel, and Dallas Turner, and even a guy like Bo Richter would probably get more true pass rushing snaps compared to Chaz. But I think his value is going to come in the special teams department, and he's going to offer immediate impact there. Like, he was making some plays during the preseason. And, also with him, this guy had 6.5 sacks his last year at Georgia. I'm just curious to see how the Vikings are going to develop this guy because, Grenard, Van Ginkel, they're not going to be here for the next 10 years. Hopefully have them for at least the next 3 to 5. But you're also looking at guys behind them that could develop and be the edge department of the future. Maybe the Vikings views Chaz as that guy to man that room. But at number 3, Joe Huber. This guy is the definition of I went out there and earned my spot. I went out there and I earned my place on the 53-man roster. Now, he was one of the highest graded offensive guards from the 2025 draft class this year during the preseason. Had an overall grade of 74.1, run block grade of 88.6, pass block grade at 73.1, and this wasn't in limited action. Like, he played a whole lot during the preseason, getting 185 snaps in. So I think this guy probably going to be a rotational offensive guard for the foreseeable future. And hey, look at this Vikings offensive line. They got some talent, man. Like, even the 5 backups, I think, could be a solid offensive line there. Justin School, Blake Brandel, Juergens, Huber, and Walter Rouse. Like, that's a solid 5-man unit behind Darisaw, Jackson, Kelly, Fries, and O'Neal. So I'm excited to see what this group's going to do. I think this is one of the most underrated offensive lines in the league. But I'll ask you guys this. Give the Vikings offensive line a Madden rating. Scale it 1 through 99. If I have to get mine, probably put them around an 87, 88 overall. But you guys give the Vikings offensive line a Madden rating down below. Now we'll dive into the rest of the UDFAs here in a second. But today's episode of Vikings Now is brought to you by Prize Picks. And the football season is just around the corner, but college football is here. So don't miss any of the action this season on Prize Picks. And if you guys download the Prize Picks app today, plug in that promo code CLNS. We'll hook you guys up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, Prize Picks is simple to play. You just got to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks is also the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And they also got a free winner, a max discount for you guys. Week 1, the Dallas Cowboys, without Micah Parsons, will be taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Shout out to Jerry Jones for that one. But, hey, if you guys just put that in your lineups, it'll be a free winner and a free square. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use that promo code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. A massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, let's dive into the rest of the UDFAs here. Vikings just been crushing it in that department over the last couple of seasons. And coming in at number 4 on our UDFA list, already a fan favorite, Elijah Williams, defensive tackle. Now, this guy was popping during the preseason. His pass rushing arsenal from the interior of the defensive line is special stuff. He's got very quick hands. He can shed off blockers at a high level. He is also a very good two-gapper for being such a young player. Like, amount of times in the preseason, he's one-on-one with a guard or a center, and he's playing both gaps, and he was just making plays. So I will give a lot of credit to Elijah Williams, and, he's got a chance to play a lot this upcoming season because right now, the Vikings put out their starting defensive tackle depth chart. It did have Jalen Redmond starting at the nose tackle spot, and I'm a massive fan of Jalen Redmond. I think he could really build on what he showed last year and potentially have a breakout year, but it's not like he's going to be getting 100% of the snaps. Elijah Williams will be worked in there, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, and same with Levi Drake Rodriguez. And, even PFF graded this guy out extremely well during the preseason. 80.4 overall grade, run defense 67.6, pass rush 78.3, and again, in a pretty hefty sample size, around 79 snaps. So if he could replicate this, during an NFL game, that's going to be some high-level production. So shout out to Elijah Williams for making the team. He went out there, earned it, just like a guy like Joe Huber, but also another guy that earned it, and maybe he also caught a couple breaks because of all the injuries at the wide receiver room. But you got to show some love to Miles Price. We also got an update today that Miles Price will be wearing number 4 instead of number 31, so I kind of like that for the UDFA out of Indiana. But this guy, he showed a lot of ability, especially returning punts, and, I'm not saying he's going to have a massive role on this team offensively. Honestly, I'll be shocked if we see him out there at all at the just true wide receiver position, just because, even when, Addison isn't in the lineup, you're still going with Thielen. Naylor should be ready to go week 1. Even Ty Felton would be ahead of him. So I think he's just picked up as a punt returner, but he showed a lot of juice as a punt returner. And he kind of got gypped a little bit on a couple of his punts during the preseason, made a couple of guys miss, had a 20-plus yard gain, but it got called back due to a penalty. But again, the Vikings probably just saw that pop he had and decided to, say, hey, this guy deserves it. He should be on the team. But another guy here, Ben Urisic, tight end out of Georgia. So 2 Georgia UDFAs just put that together, making the roster. But Urisic was awesome during training camp. Big body tight end. He was battling it out with Gavin Bartholomew, our 6th-round pick to make the team, but Bartholomew is going to be in and out of the lineup this season with a back injury. And, Urisic, big body, showed a lot of pop, freak athlete, so I like that move. And, will we see him a lot? Probably not, just because he's playing behind T.J. Hawkinson and Josh Oliver. But if an injury happens to either of those guys, watch out for Urisic to get a lot of snaps this upcoming season. Now, the last UDFA, the Vikings picked up Austin Keys, a linebacker. Now, this guy played a lot during the preseason. He was all over the field. Like, he is just that old school linebacker, see ball, get ball, bring the ball carrier down. And I was a little stunned when he made the team, mainly just because I thought there was no chance the Vikings keep more than 4 linebackers, but they decided to keep 5 with Cashman, Ivan Pace, Eric Wilson, Kobe King, and then Austin Keys being the 5th guy. He also showed a lot of promise in special teams, which is the biggest reason why he ended up making the team. But when I was thinking about just all the UDFAs Kwesi has picked up, it all started with Ivan Pace Jr. He went undrafted because of his size, but if you guys remember, his senior year at Cincinnati, he had 22.5 sacks. And the Vikings just saw the talent, they saw the work ethic, took a chance on him, and he ended up working out extremely, extremely well. So that's where it started, but there's even more UDFAs on the team. I saw a stat. It was 12.5% of the Vikings roster are actually UDFAs, and you obviously got the most famous UDFA, probably the best success story out there, Adam Thielen, but also Ryan Wright, Dwight McGlothern, and then Bo Richter ended up making the team as well. So I'll ask you guys this. Out of all the UDFAs, which one are you guys most excited about? Let me know your thoughts down below. For me personally, if it's not Brosmer, I'm going to probably go Elijah Williams, the defensive tackle, but you guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in to today's show. We'll see you guys next time. As always, let's go Vikes.